Our lives. Okay.
Good
I
to
have
see
my
you.
notes to take the meet at 1 o'clock.
That's fine.
We are, yeah. I feel under a fair amount of pressure to produce several bills this week among the miscellaneous tax. So we are going to keep moving right along. We're going to start with our testimony on 933, an act relating to miscellaneous administrative and policy changes to tax law, miscellaneous tax. We have Ashley Parker. Ashley is up there. Okay, welcome, Ashley. And the floor is yours. Senator Chittenden.
Really quick before you go, Ashley, I just want the committee members to know that on the website, there is a 2-page amendment that pertains. Usually John Gray would walk through it, but he wasn't available right now. And so they're talking about something that you can read the language on in the 4-page document, Burlington TIF, waterfront TIF. It's all intent language. I just wanted to say that there is some contemplated language out there for it.
And
4 pages of.
I believe we have all also received communication from the auditor's office, so we will have the auditor in. And Ashley. And I don't know. Just introduce yourself and the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. My name is Ashley Parker. I'm with the City of Burlington. I'm the Capital Program Director. I also want to note that today on this call is Kara Al-Naswari. She is the Interim Chief of Staff for the Mayor, but also the CEDO Director. And then we also have David White, who is our TIF consultant for the city. And I think, Kara, you were actually going to kick us off, right?
Sure. Okay, just introduce yourself for the record and the floor is yours and you can do whatever order works.
Thank you. Thank you so much. My name is Kara Al-Nasrawi. I'm the Director of Community and Economic Development for the City of Burlington. Thank you for having us here today. With this language, we are looking to add clarity to what we believe was the intent of legislation passed in 2016 when we extended our TIF district. I am at this point going to hand it over to David G. White, who is of White and Burke, who is our TIF consultant, and I may jump in now and then to support some of his statements.
Okay. Welcome, David.
Great.
Familiar face.
Thank you so much. Thank you, senators, for having us here. Thank you, Kara and Ashley as well. For the record, again, I am David White. I am president of White and Burke Real Estate Advisors and consultant to the City of Burlington on both of its TIF districts. And I apologize for not being there in person, which I would normally do, but I recently had a full knee replacement and I'm not all that mobile as yet. So I'm doing this from my home office. At any rate, I will plunge right in and have prepared a, series of slides. I provided to Charlotte Strasser, your clerk, a copy of those if you'd like to at some point get a printout. And if you don't mind, I'm going to go immediately there. Let's see, am I able to do a share screen? Let's see, let me try this. If you could enable screen sharing, I'd appreciate it. Let me know when that's ready. Okay, thank you. Let me do that. Let me go here, share. Let me go full screen on that just so it's easier for everybody. Let's see what's going on here. Let me get rid of that. It's not letting me. There we go. Well, I'll just have to do it this way.
Okay, we're seeing it just fine.
Okay. All right. So let me just plunge right in without delaying anymore. So let me be very frank that I don't quite understand why we're here. I believe that the current situation is crystal clear as to what statute says about the retention of increment for the City of Burlington and its waterfront TIF district. Nonetheless, the question has been raised, and that's why we're here. But under the rules of statutory construction, and I will admit I'm not an attorney, but I've been in this business for a long time, as many of you know. Under the rules of statutory construction, if you've got an existing statute and then later, subsequently, there's an amendment, only those things that are specifically called out and stated in the amendment are changed. Anything that's in the underlying statute remains the same. It's pretty logical. That's the way you folks work day to day all the time. And I believe that's the circumstance we face here. So I don't, from my perspective, see that there's a need for any action, to be perfectly blunt. Now, we're willing to have action, and I know the state auditor's office believes there should be. So I will proceed to talk about that. But let's talk about where we are. In 2011, the legislature passed Act 45, and it basically allowed the city to, extended the time frame for the waterfront TIF district. And the key language I've quoted right from the statute here, and it says, in relevant part, that the April 1st, 2010 grand list for the waterfront TIF is the baseline to be used as the starting point for calculating the tax increment that will be divided 25% to the education fund, 75% to the city of Burlington, basically the city of Burlington TIF district. And the reason for that is that, I think, as you all realize, there was, when the Burlington TIF district was established in 1997, there was no statewide education tax. And the city made the decision, as it had the complete authority to do at that time, to retain 100% of the education increment and 100% of the municipal increment to support the TIF district. But along in the intervening years came the statewide education property tax. And so when this amendment occurred in 2011, the legislature said that, okay, you're going to be grandfathered for any incremental value created through 2010 because, we can't take away from what your bondholders and your taxpayers in Burlington have already anticipated and based their decisions on. So you're grandfathered at 100% of any increment created through that time. But as you go forward, you got to live by our current rules. And at that time, the current rules for TIF said that you could retain no more than 75% of the education increment. And that's why this is written the way it is, so that from 2010 back, the city could continue its grandfather to retain 100%. Going forward, it would be only 75%. And so that's the result of Act 45 in 2011. So it's restated here, but basically the the education tax, 100% for that portion of the increment that had been created by 2010, but anything thereafter, 25% had to go to the education fund, and the municipal tax, the city wanted to continue at 100%, and the legislature said that's fine. Then along came, 5 years later, in 2016, Act 134. And it's very brief, the portion relative to Burlington, but it's the one that said, okay, we will allow you to extend the life of the waterfront TIF district that otherwise was going to expire in 2026, I believe, fiscal 26, if I'm not mistaken. Extend the life of it to 2035 for 3 parcels only. And those are the 3 for City Place. The buildings that are in construction now, and that portion which is not yet being redeveloped. And it says, in relevant part, the city of Burlington may extend the period to retain municipal and education tax increment for the 3 parcels until June 30th, 2035. Absolutely silent about what percentages, about base periods, and so forth and so on. And so as I understand, again, I'm not an attorney, but I've been at this business a long time, that under the rules of construction of statutes, the only thing that was amended was this time period for those 3 parcels. Nothing else was amended. All the underlying rules in statute still existed. And that means that for that period through 2010, 100% of the education tax gets retained, education tax increment for any value created thereafter, 75%, and 100% municipal. Pretty straightforward. And the city and VEPSI have proceeded on that basis in good faith ever since. And that includes up to and including the most recent substantial change in 2023, in which the TIF district was modeled in that way. And so we believe that's where things stand today. We think it's crystal clear. We don't think there's ever been a question about it. Nonetheless, the state auditor, in his wisdom, has questioned it and said, wait a minute, this is ambiguous. We don't know what this means. The legislature didn't spell it out. And said it in the 2023 audit for the city of Burlington's waterfront TIF district said, look, the legislature really needs to take action to make clear the date base of the value. Is it 1997? Is 2010? Is it some other year? The percentage of education tax to be retained and the percentage of municipal tax to the TIF fund. I disagree. I think it's clear, but the auditor is, has made this request and has put pressure on VEPSI and the city to move forward, which is why we're in front of you. So that leaves you with two options. You can leave it as is, which we think is fine. Just accept the current statutory construction. We think it's clear and we don't think anything needs to be done. Or you can say, okay, the auditor's raised it. We would like to address the auditor's requests and move forward on that basis. And, we can live with either one. Either one is acceptable. We don't have a strong opinion on it. If you address, however, the auditor's request, we do think that the current draft doesn't quite get there because the auditor did request three things. That you clarify while the current draft clarifies the municipal tax increment, it doesn't do the two other things, which is to clarify the education tax increment and clarify the base value date. And so if you're going to do that, I'll just say that the city is willing to accept that we give up the grandfathering of that 100% for that period of time. And I'll get to it in a moment, but it's not material, I think, to either the state or the city. And to move to the 1997 base for everything, which is the way most TIF districts work. This is unusual. Most, you have a base established when the district was established. Burlington's waterfront is different because it was established before the statewide education tax. So we'll accept the 1997 base, forego that 100% retention for that pre-2010 increment if you choose to go that way and take this action. What's the impact on the education fund? If you leave it as is, which we think is fine, there's no change. It's the same impact that's been projected all along. It doesn't increase it. It doesn't decrease it. If you excuse me, address the auditor's request, it will slightly increase the city's payments to the education fund. My estimates are based on the current two buildings, one that's been completed, the other one that's under construction, the south and north buildings, that it will increase the over the remaining life of the TIF district through 2035, increase the payment to the education fund by about $16,000 or $17,000 per year on average over the next 9 years. So a total of maybe $150,000. Now, if so-called phase two, the portion still controlled by Don Sinix that's not yet under construction happens, it would increase that more. But I'll get back to that topic in a moment. So it is a minor change that increases the payments because the city was willing to forego that grandfathering. It will increase the payments by a very modest amount. The impact on the waterfront TIF fund, again, if you leave it as is, which we're comfortable with, there's no change in impact. It's what we've been modeling all along. It's what we anticipate, and everything works. If we reduce it by this roughly $16,000, $17,000 per year to address the auditor's request, the projections show that we nonetheless will have about a $4 million surplus in 2035. And again, that's based solely on the existing two buildings and the conservative assumption that no redevelopment happens with the piece that Don Sinix still controls. I will say that we expect that development will occur, but our modeling is conservative because we don't yet know when it will occur, nor what the ultimate value will be. So we don't have a reasonable basis for estimating it. So wanting to be conservative, we have the projections that I do that I'm responsible for. I do the financial projections for both the city's TIF districts. I've been conservative and assumed it does not happen. The buildings stay the way they are from a purely financial perspective, even though we expect that it will occur at some point over the next few years. Now, regarding that 4 million, which sounds like a big number, but in the context of this TIF district actually isn't. In many TIF districts, it'd be a huge number. In this one, it's not relative to the scale of the district. Remember that when at the end of the life of a TIF district, that whether it's 4 million or whether it's more, which it would be if that phase 2 occurs, that money gets distributed to the underlying tax authorities, education tax and municipal tax, proportional to the funds that came in. So ultimately, the money that, whether it's that 4 million or some other number, will end up the portion, which is roughly 55%, in today's dollars, will end up going to, so 2 million or more in this case, to the education fund. Now, in the event that phase 2 occurs sooner than later, I would expect that the city will come back to VEPSI and say, look, there's no point in retaining the same percentage as we are. Let's decrease the city's percentage and decrease the education retention percentage so that we don't have these funds sitting in the TIF fund that we don't need. So I don't think that we would accumulate a vastly larger number if that happens sooner. So what might we do? I think you can leave it. You could make the choice to say, look, statutory construction is such that, yes, it's clear. We don't think anything needs to be clarified. Or if you choose to address the auditor's comments and concerns, then I think I took the last operating paragraph out of the draft that was prepared by Legislative Counsel and simply suggested that we add in the clarification that of 75% of the education tax increment, and that the base value will be that as of April 1st, 1996, which is fiscal 97. So I've proposed some possible language that could be used, but the attorneys in Legislative Counsel no doubt can write it better than I can. This is the concept. And that's it.
Okay, so this is something you want added to miscellaneous taxes, right? It is not here now. All right, we will have the auditor in. This is not the first time we've been through this. I would like to say Burlington's TIFs went in before the statewide TIF law. So they are not set up necessarily the same as we had 3 or 4, and they were all different. They are now all fairly similar. So, and I do remember this extension, but we will hear from the auditor. See, I know there is communication. I think we all got it from Tim Asham, and there was an attached letter from the auditor. So we will have them in to testify.
Ask a question, David.
Yeah.
So, Mr. White, thank you for that. I want to just clarify, if you looked at the language that Ledge Council has drafted, it's all intent language. I see that you're proposing some possible tweaks at the end, but my understanding with talking with JFO too, that this language just basically affirms current practice. So do you have any objections to what this language as drafted currently states, absent any changes like the one you just mentioned at the end of your testimony? Is it fine as is?
I haven't thought about it from quite that perspective. Hang on, let me just take a quick, I've got it right in front of me.
to steal Ted Barnett's thunder, but his impression when he talked to me this morning, and he'll come in and testify, is that this language should not have any impact on the ed fund. If anything, it just addresses the auditor's concerns and codifies the current practice of the allocations as they're received.
Is
Correct.
that-
And if I may, Senator Chittenden, this is Cara El-Nasraoui speaking. I do know that the Legislative Council says that he does not understand there to be any confusion around the education increment. Neither does the city of Burlington. This language is suggested by David White in order to, if the state attorney's office would like this clarification, we can add it in. We do not feel it's necessary.
Okay. Our drafter is not available today, so we will have John in. And we'll have the auditor in. And we will have that discussion. As I remember, there was some very pointed discussion between the auditor's office and the city of Burlington when we did the extension. So we will see how this works out. But it sounds like just clarifying what percent is retained, what percent is submitted to the ed fund. All right. Okay. Thank you. Any questions, any further comments? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. Committee, we've
Thank you
got
all.
4 whole minutes. Couple updates. 7:10 that we took testimony on Friday afternoon. And we left with Annette Smith, who gave us a very detailed description of 2 solar arrays that were being proposed in Bennington County, had been proposed, were very contentious, and sounds like there were a lot of lawsuits floating around. And her concern was that this bill would just allow them to reopen it. I've had communications over the weekend saying simply that under 710, standard offer projects are not covered. They're not part of this bill.
Standard offers.
Standard offer is not. These 2 proposed projects are standard offer projects. So that if we don't require that you build 2 roads and string 2 sets of power lines for 2 net metering projects that are permitted next to each other at different times, they can use the same driveway. It won't have an impact on that particular project. That somebody else has different information than that, I can stand to be corrected, but that's and I did check with one of the senators from Bennington. He didn't have a problem with it.
With the bill itself?
With the bill itself.
Okay. Are we gonna get more testimony on it or?
Well, I will get more testimony if you tell me if you would like.
I don't know, I just, can you repeat what you said? I'm sorry. I was reading something that
Okay.
you sent me about the bill.
That the bill does not cover standard offer projects. The 2 sounds like projects from hell in Bennington are standard offer projects.
Oh, I didn't get that.
Therefore, no, I didn't either, which is why we don't do things and vote them out on Friday afternoon.
Yeah,
that bill would not impact the Bennington
situation.
situation.
So what kind of project are they? They're not net metering there.
They're net metering. They're net,
Their standard offer, remember that's that,
Their standard
What's
offer,
that other one?
net meter.
What's it called? It's not net metering, it's not a standard offer, isn't there a third?
it's just a regular siting of solar.
Just, they're not either a standard offer.
Yeah, I mean, the standard offer is when you basically have a look, essentially, this isn't overly simplified, so a lot of people are gonna correct me after I say this, but
Sell it to the.
it's like a lower, they get a higher rate in order to fund a project that wouldn't necessarily
Or standard offer.
understand.
Yeah, higher than the going price.
Correct.
So this is just a market-based project then, basically.
Yeah, that's the third one.
Is that the third? They'll call it market-based.
I don't know if that's what it's called, but that's.
There's
Okay.
I mean, whatever, we are looking at net metering projects and says you don't have to build 2 roads. Why? We would like 2 roads. Because if they're, right now, if you build 150 solar panels on this 2-acre plot.
Yeah.
You have to have a driveway and a transmission line. If you build this, things on the adjoining lot at the same time.
Yeah.
You only have to have 1 entry driveway, and 1 transmission line. If you come back and you build 150 2 years, 3 years, 5 years later on the adjoining lot, the law says that is now a separate project and you need to build a separate road and run a separate transmission line. And this says you can use the same road and the same transmission line to get your trucks in and your electricity out.
But do you believe these 2 Bennington projects are net metering projects?
No, the
Oh.
request I was told, it's by a lobbyist, but he represents the industry, that these were standard offers, so they'd have to go with their separate driveways. These were standard offer projects, and I did check with the senator from Bennington. And he seemed to think this was okay,
The
but
710 doesn't apply to standard.
yeah, doesn't apply to standard offer, and I do remember. So we can read that. I'm not putting it up for vote this afternoon, and anyone with, you want to hear from more people, or just let me know. That was the information I have received. We are going back. Okay, to 7:53 at 1:30, and it is 1:30. This is utility service disconnections and ratepayer protection. Sorry.
It's an awesome playlist.
Thanks for dragging me down.
It's
It's a great song.
He's here, and he's here, he's in the
Oh,
hall.
It is a great.
Tom Petty.
And Carol is. he's here. Okay,
The ringtone?
okay, yeah, the next one is coming.
Phones, looking at the.
Okay.
Welcome here.
Okay, and this agenda reflects Andrea's suggestion that's from this morning, okay. So we think we have the most helpful. This is disconnections. Remember, we had a similar bill. We didn't do it as we had, this bill was coming. This is pretty much our bill, because of the week it requires workshops by the TUC, and we've had testimony of that. At this point, they don't have the staff funding. So we're gonna continue, and Greg, you're up first.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay.
For the record, I'm Greg Favor with the TUC. Um, so we're here to talk about page 753 today. We are generally okay with this bill as it came out of the House. I don't know if you want me to go through it. Pretty short, but
Just. You're okay with it? That's,
in general, there is one, so it requires us, it requires us to do a rulemaking by 2028. That gives us enough time to do the rulemaking. We were planning to do one anyway. And then there's three things that we need to do in that rulemaking. One is to put in an extreme heat
yeah,
exception, which was in S204 as well. And we're fine with that because utilities generally do that already. Number two is to clarify, what type of physician certificate you can get. Does it just have to be by a doctor? Is a licensed physician's assistant? And we already do that as well. We have a list of things that will qualify as a legitimate physician certificate. Number three, this one's a little more problematic. It requires due consideration of medical judgment regarding the duration of the physician certificate. So right now you get a 30-day time period for every physician certificate you present. This is a little, it will be considered in the context of a rulemaking. So that gives us some assurances there, but we are not doctors, obviously. We don't know the medical basis for the duration of the physician certificate. So it's a little more problematic for us, this third one.
so right now, a medical certificate, did you say lasts 30 days?
30 days, yeah,
Okay, and this is for disconnect.
that's right.
All right,
So if someone presents a physician certificate,
says you can't disconnect me
Yeah.
because I'm on a hard
imminent
walk machine.
health hazard, right?
Yeah.
We'll give them
Okay.
30 days. It lasts for 30 days, that physician
Right.
certificate.
And so they then need to get a reaffirming doctor certificate.
30
Okay,
days,
the bill.
day 31, they could file another one,
Okay,
right? But they're always in 30-day increments.
so assume it would. There's some, unless the doctor just. Yeah, it's like refilling a prescription. There's a phone call.
It could be, I
Like
guess,
still in the heart lung machine, you send it, you
right,
send it back in.
right.
This would require that you make that judgment, like,
Well, this would require us to consider something longer. Let's say a doctor files a certificate that says this guy's going to be out for, 6 months. You should do a stay on the disconnect for 6 months. I assume. It's pretty vague what the way this is working.
okay,
So, we would really not have any medical basis to say yes or no, he's right or wrong. We don't know.
okay, Dr. Hardy.
Thank you. Well, to that point, if a doctor, you get a note from the doctor that says, this person has a medical condition that's going to last 6 months and they're not able to work during that time because of it. And therefore they won't have income to pay their utility bill, perhaps.
It wouldn't be that detailed.
Okay, yeah, well, so say they stay out 6 months, but.
Yeah.
This isn't asking you to determine whether or not that doctor is right, I don't think, is it?
Well, it says due consideration of medical judgment.
That just means you have to give it due consideration, like you have, maybe
Yes.
consideration isn't the right word, maybe it's deference. Because it seems to me that we wouldn't want you to say, well, actually, I think that doctor's wrong.
Right, we don't want to be in that
Yeah,
position.
Yeah, because,
Right.
Yeah.
so,
It's
maybe-
more of a judgment call now. on our
yeah,
part.
I see your point that we wouldn't want it to be a judgment call. We want it to be like, if the doctor says 6 months, then it's 6 months. That's, or whatever.
I guess at the same time, if the doctor knows it's gonna be 6 months, he can automatically fax it into you or
Every 30 days.
every 30 days.
Well, okay. Doctor's offices, do we want to make them do that?
I don't know. All right.
I think you want to hear from utilities on that as to the actual duration.
Duration, because they're losing money. As long as that bill is not paid.
There's a reason it's 30 days at a time.
And I thought the reason wasn't that you couldn't work. These are frequently elderly people that don't work. It's because if you get it shut off, your heart lung machine stops and using it.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a medical reason. It's not, you can't work. You might have a spouse that's working.
True, yeah.
Or
I missed-
disability insurance, or it's,
I was trying to come up with an example, but you're right. It's not.
yeah,
It's more of a medical. I mean, should we hear from?
Like the way the rule is now, it's an immediate and serious health hazard due to disconnect.
Okay,
So
so it's
immediate
severe.
and serious. So 6-month thing probably does not come under that. So, but anyway, so we do have a little, that gives us a little pause, having to make those kind of determinations. And you should hear from the utilities.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, so correct me if I'm wrong, but this language is just here to try to eliminate one more barrier to getting service provided for someone who might be in a vulnerable position or
Right.
in a wheelchair or ill or whatever. And I mean, I personally, I think this is a great step forward. I agree with Senator Hardy. Maybe the word consideration isn't the right word, but I think it could help a lot of people.
It's fine to tell us to consider it in the context of the rulemaking. Maybe that's what the language
yeah,
right.
you're striving for there, but so yeah, you'd have to change the language a little bit. I'd be happy to work with Ledge Council to just say, consider this in the context of the rulemaking that's required.
I mean,
That could be good.
at this point, one does have an obligation to pay one's utility bills.
Mm.
There are people who might have the ability to pay it, but knowing that it couldn't be shut off, might choose not to. And that means that all the other ratepayers pay it because the utilities keep going and they keep incurring costs. And these are regulated utilities, so they're not making huge corporate profits.
But would your doctors notice, sort of make sure that there's no abuse of this? No?
How do doctors know if you've got a working spouse or a trust fund?
No, we could, of course, require the utility to have its own physician to check it, and then perhaps also to have its own attorneys to determine the validity of the claim.
That sounds reasonable.
That sounds great. It's a good idea.
Well, the point I'm making is that this can go on forever in terms of that. I think that having utilities review it as part of the process, I think is an appropriate thing to do. I think going further than that is not.
And we do have organizations like CAPS and Office on Aging that will help you get your utility bill. We don't pull the plug on people that need the heart lung machine function, but that is usually last. That's not where you start. You start with trying to make that, and you work on a payment plan that there are options. Okay, so other than that, this is
That's fine.
okay. Don't want to play dog. All right,
Thank you.
so we've got Carol Flint is on Zoom. Carol's on Zoom. Here's Carol. Okay, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Appreciate Madam Chair and committee members for giving the department the opportunity to testify on H753. sorry, I've got two screens, so if I'm looking away, it's because I'm trying to look at my notes. I had a couple of comments on H753 in section 2. The department doesn't regulate the disconnection of propane gas, so perhaps adding the word natural gas to reflect that jurisdiction would be helpful. Also in section 2, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Lost me at natural gas. You don't, the department doesn't regulate disconnections, is that?
We regulate the disconnection of natural gas. We do not regulate the disconnection of propane gas. So for this bill, adding the word natural in front of gas might be a good idea. The Attorney General's office regulates the disconnection of propane gas. We do at the department regulate safety around certain propane gas.
Okay. You regulate the disconnection of natural gas,
Yes.
which is Gas Metro, right? We only have one we have more than one natural gas company in the state.
Not that I know of. Vermont Gas is the only company I'm aware of.
Okay.
Okay. And then
natural gas. Okay.
And then regarding the reporting data, and this is just something I'm pointing out, that the annual energy report is now due January 15. So any data referenced regarding disconnections would be either from a point in time data collection effort in the fall, for example, in order to meet that deadline, or it would be data collected during the state fiscal year. And in either case, I think they would be good. It's just we wouldn't be able to get the data analyzed through the end of the calendar year. So I'm just representing that.
Do you have another suggestion for a date then? Or
no, I mean, I think it's fine. Many reports are through, but if you all wanted fresh data up through the end of the calendar year, then we would need a couple more months for that.
I see.
Report. Okay. That's all. As long as you're fine with it, we're fine with it. So it's your report. And then in section 3, rulemaking, Mr. Faber represented some concerns that I think are reasonable to have represented. I agree with him that the utilities will want to share with you their thoughts on that. So I don't have any specific suggestions here other than perhaps some better clarifying language would be helpful. And I agree that we don't want to go into the details of the rulemaking in the bill itself, which I think maybe wasn't explicitly stated previously, but was my takeaway from that discussion. There are a lot of nuances here, and that those things get better teased out in the rule itself. So
okay.
That's it.
Okay, committee, any questions? All right, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Okay. All right, now we're going to the utilities. Andrea, go on.
Yeah. For the record, Andrea Cohen, Vermont Electric Cooperative. I was here talking about some of these issues about a month ago on March 11th. I had a bunch of slides. If you're interested in a lot of information that was kind of packed on there, I won't repeat it all, but I will emphasize that when we were here, we did discuss our member demographics and energy burden and affordability concerns that we have. If you're not familiar with BEC, about 57% of our members are age 65 and older. And when it comes to energy burden, about 7 of the top 11 highest energy burning towns are in our service territory. So we work with a lot of members who are on fixed incomes and are struggling to pay their bills every month. And we're really motivated, frankly, when we come in and testify about, affordability and keeping rates down. It's those folks in mind. And sometimes we talk about cost shifting, and sometimes that comes in when we're talking about things like this, when some members might take advantage of opportunities that others don't. And what ends up happening is somebody else has to pay, because when someone has a med note or with the land disconnection, somebody else is covering that cost. We're kind of a closed system. We're a nonprofit cooperative, and you're not paying, then he's paying more, and that's just how that works. So our service team works really closely with members who are struggling to pay bills or have medical issues. And this is daily for us. There is not a day that you came to our office, you'd be hearing people taking calls from someone who is going into the hospital, coming out of the hospital, spouse just died. And we live in these communities, we work with these members, and we're very flexible, and we're working with people all the time. More regulations are not going to necessarily help us navigate all that. Actually, more flexibility is better than not. But so sometimes when we look at these things, we understand the intentions are really sincere, like let's help people. And we understand where that's coming from. And in our experience, the folks that navigate some of these opportunities aren't the ones that need the help the most. It's actually often the opposite. There's people that I wish would come work with us, because I'm like, our rules better than we do. Like they know my second med note happened and I'm ready for my third. And frankly, we know they're not the ones that need the help. They're just really good at, they're really crafty and really know how to work it, and good for them. But so my comments today are just intending to say, we're not really sure why we need this legislation. We're not sure what the problem is that we're trying to solve. The affordability problem is real, but this is not helping with that. It is just a delaying. If somebody has a medical issue, there's a lot of help that we direct them to, and we're really flexible with them. We just got somebody onto an 18-month payment arrangement because he just came out of the hospital and something broke, and now he's using more electric heat, and we know his bill's going to be higher than usual. And as a matter of fact, he's not even utilizing it, but he knew he could, and so we're really happy to work with those folks. But generally, like on the med note part that Mr. Faber mentioned, I'm not sure what's not working now that we're going to solve. If anything, we might cause more problems, because folks will delay, because it doesn't mean their bill goes away. It just means when they come out of winter and the fuel assistance is no longer available, now their bill is thousands of dollars, where if we had been working with us, all along, we would have worked with them on, connecting them to resources and payment arrangements, things like that. So overall, our preference would be, if you wanted to pursue the House version, maybe that med note section is the one that gives us a little problems, as Mr. Faber was saying. I'm not sure how we all are going to use medical judgment, or frankly, I'm not sure if the House side spoke to doctors, but we get fax notes all the time, and I'm not sure they enjoy having, like, people call them and say, get us, it's like, get me a note for school. And it's like, they're faxing in notes, and I'm not sure they appreciate being in the middle of some of that. But I haven't talked to them directly, but that's my expectation. So also the bill that you were looking at, the last time I was here, you had a new draft. It was March 11th of S204, and you had a different version.
Yes, I think it was very similar.
Yeah.
The rulemaking was
Right. It was dealing with the high heat and a few things. And so in terms of preference, we like that version even better than the House. And I do want to say the House was very responsive to a lot of the feedback and comments. Like, the bill that they passed was way better than it was originally. We appreciate that effort. But all things being equal, the draft that you had from March 11th on your bill was definitely preferable in our opinion.
okay. And I think the one that we had, I checked with me, sponsored the bill. It was a response to a constituent who was paying her electric bill through her rent. Her landlord got the 3 notices. Her landlord didn't pay the bill. And she lost a lot of food in her refrigerator and freezer when the lights went out. I don't, yeah,
There are
that is something
regulations.
but I haven't.
That shouldn't
heard-
happen. Because the regulations do require that if we're aware that it's a landlord tenant, if we're aware as a tenant, we give the tenant the opportunity to put the service in their name. We're required to do that.
Right, I remember passing.
Okay.
But I haven't yet heard a problem we're trying to solve. There's a fear, and there is a problem nationally. We are one of the few states that did not deregulate in the late 90s. And so our utility pricing is still regulated. It is not on a for-profit basis. And I think those may be the states where we're seeing problems, but I haven't heard any testimony as to the problem. that we're trying to-
Affordability is I mean, we get that.
Affordability is a problem.
And it's
as
bigger than
we
us.
Switch to more electric usage, the requirement that we keep it as affordable as possible. And that kind of is the role of this committee here, additionally, as to watch other things that we do environmentally and the impact on rates. Senator.
Couple things. One, I think that we can probably get a couple witnesses in who can speak to, who are advocating for this bill, who can speak to these other issues. But I'm wondering, Andrea, if you, what Greg was saying about the number 3, I understand why that would be a concern. It is a little vague, but if it's specifically referring to their rulemaking process, not to you, what you're doing directly, so you wouldn't have to take consideration of a doctor's note.
Right.
It's just in the rules, they would consider it as part of a rulemaking process. Would you prefer that? Does that
Yeah,
make more sense to you?
And I think we're fine if they want to consider how that whole system is working right now, because it's a little clunky and,
Right.
you know, there probably could be some improvements and.
And then you would have a chance to, you and your colleagues can weigh in on it.
Right.
So I think that makes more sense, required in the rulemaking process. And then the rest of the stuff in section 3 of the bill, you're doing in some capacity. This is just codifying more what utilities are already doing, the not disconnecting during extreme heat and allowing deficit, a sort of beyond the doctor.
If you pass this, we certainly participate and share. We have a lot of trust in the PC doing a good job, and
Yeah,
it's just,
because this is just the rulemaking process.
Right.
It's not like requiring you to do it yet. Right. Rulemaking process. So the upper part is it's basically just data collection and reporting. And
Yeah.
that would be the Public Service Department collecting data from you all.
Yeah.
And is this data that already exists or?
which, we report right now every month with disconnections and whatnot. It's just, I mean, this isn't the worst thing.
Yeah, so I mean, if
It's
you're
just
already,
more
if you're
work.
already reporting this data,
Yeah,
that's
no,
more work for you guys, right? You're
I'm not worried
reporting
about
it.
that.
So, yeah, so it does seem like this is just reporting. It's just requiring the Public Service Department to put it in a form that is readable for us. And then the rest is mostly like the PUC rulemaking.
Okay.
So I don't, it doesn't
It's-
sound like it would change your practices a lot.
Depends what comes out of the rulemaking. We never know how that'll go. But I would say the House passed a bill
Mhm.
with the change you're discussing about the MedNote part is. the
Yeah,
part that
yeah,
gets
I
us
can understand that.
we would participate. It's just work for them, but if they're willing to do that work, will participate and it'll be okay, I'm sure.
I mean, it sounded like, Greg, correct me if you're wrong, I'm wrong, but you said you're gonna be doing rulemaking anyway. You were planning on going to.
Planning on doing that, yeah.
Yeah, so this, you would just add this to what you were already doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Candace Morgan.
Candace Morgan, Green Mountain Power. Let's see you all again. As Andrea mentioned, we had previously come in and testified on your version of S204 that you've been considering back in March, which focused on the high heat, and adding that into the rule 3.300, which we were supportive of at the time. We're also largely supportive of the House passed version of H753 that you have before you today too. Appreciate the conversation that has been had this afternoon around perhaps tweaking that language related to due consideration, but it all largely would be happening in the rulemaking. And as Mr. Faber indicated, that was something that was probably going to be happening soon anyway. And I imagine a lot of these topics were likely to come up since they have been discussed at different points in time along the way as well. As mentioned too, the reporting, we do require, or we submit monthly reports to the PUC under the current rule as well. And so having those be, gathered in a way that doesn't require folks to have to go into each individual report to see trends. As long as other folks who are doing that consolidating of the information are comfortable with it, it doesn't seem to require anything additional from us in that space as well. And to echo what Andrea had mentioned too, really appreciated the conversation that the House committee had on this. There were a lot of, I think the committee learned a lot around the requirements that already exist and the protections that are in place for customers, as well as how utilities work with all of our customers every day to try to come up with payment arrangements that work for them, get folks reconnected, or also then get connected to programs that are out there to help support them in paying their bills, because as everyone has mentioned, and I'm sure you'll hear from the remaining witnesses as well today, if a customer is not paying that bill, it results in a pressure for all other customers. It's a closed system for all of us, regardless of structure or utility structure in that space too.
We have a question.
Thank you, Candace. I don't know a lot about electric companies, I'll be honest with you. Andrea paints a really sort of forgiving picture of how she and her company work with customers. Do you find that you are pretty similar in your practice, and is that codified in what's the standard for how the companies work with their clients and their customers?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So the specific requirements and the procedures that we have to follow in terms of notification, giving the option for payment plans, some of that really prescriptive work is spelled out in the existing rule 3.300, which is the commission rule. And then I think in addition, I would echo what you heard from Andrea as well. We are constantly working with our customers and trying to go above and beyond those requirements to make sure that we're finding that flexibility and reasonableness in terms of making sure that folks are staying as current as they can, entering into payment plans, working with folks in that space, because disconnection is not a great outcome for anyone involved, right? And so it's really a tool of last resort, and that notification process encourages, and we create lots of avenues for folks to engage with us during that before we get to that point as well. It's also important to mention, once you get to a disconnection, a lot of the vast majority, I would say, are reconnected within 24 hours too, right? Whether it's through, their work or getting them connected to an agency out there that can kind of help provide that support too. So it is one of the things I like to do is to sit near folks that are on calls, like working with our customers, because it's such a major part of what they're doing. And, folks are dealing with a lot of really tough, challenging times out there. And so we're always trying to find ways that we can work with them.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you. Thanks. Right, next. Figure out how not to do it. Lewis Porter.
Thank you. Lewis Porter, General Manager, Washington Electric Co-op. I'll keep this short. I think that you should strike the House version and use your version instead of S204 draft 1.1. I'm not sure that there's a need to do any of it, but if there is concern about disconnects during high temperature periods, your bill would have the PUC draft rules around that. But I don't think the rest of what's in the House bill is necessary. Just so the committee knows, right now what happens is during high heat periods in the summer, we suspend disconnects sometimes. And if not, the DPS sometimes will call us and say, hey, we think you should not disconnect people during this period of a heat wave. And we listen to that. We're not required to, we listen to that and don't do disconnects. My only concern about the rulemaking on the high heat portion is that the cold weather disconnect rule is incredibly arcane and bureaucratic. It's pages and pages and pages. I am fine with a rule that says when the DPS sends a message out, the utility shall not disconnect. That makes perfect sense. And I trust that's what will come out of the rulemaking process. I would hate for the summer disconnect prohibition to mirror the winter disconnect because it's challenging even for us who do it every day to figure it out. As for the rest of it in the bill, right now I don't believe there's any limitation on how many doctor's notes people can get. We see people get 3, 4, 5 on occasion doctor's notes. But these members are generally in touch with their physician as it is. They have serious, very serious medical conditions. They're in touch with their physician. And I don't think it's super onerous to get a fax note or a call or some other way for the doctor's office to remind us that we should not be disconnecting them. And the doctors, people, in my experience, generally people do their job and focus on the mission of their job. And the mission of a doctor is to serve their patients and not to worry about the costs of disconnects or non-disconnects getting passed on to other members. Their job is to worry about the health and comfort of their patient. And so that's what they're going to do, and they do it well. But they're not weighing in their mind, am I passing these costs on to other members? So I think it's reasonable to keep it as it is. I'm also fine with the PUC taking some testimony during our rulemaking process and considering whether there's any changes to be made, but I don't see that it's necessary. That would be my testimony.
Question for Lewis or Candace or Anthony. Do we ever run into situations where somebody is disconnected for whatever reason, non-payment probably, and then a week, 2 weeks, a month down the road, the person, it's a medical episode or there's a cold stretch coming or a hot stretch coming, and they appeal to the utility to reconnect them? Does that happen?
Sure. Frequently, we have people who get disconnected and then are pretty quickly reconnected. Either they get assistance through a CAP agency or from a friend or family or some other way, and they'll get reconnected. I will say, I don't think preventing disconnects is the best way to help those who struggle to pay their electric bill. There's no means test to it or income test. That debt doesn't go away. It just sits on the books for them and it builds and builds. We have a number of programs that we have, from tier 3 incentives that are income based to our ACRE program, which we've gratefully been able to join VEC and do the ACRE program together. For efficiency's sake, that's a bill credit for 5 years for income qualified members. So there are ways to help income qualified members. I don't think disconnects are a great way to help those who are struggling to pay their bills.
Thanks, Madam Chair. And to that point, which this doesn't say, it doesn't prohibit it, it just says curtail.
Correct.
So that does leave to room to say, there are some times when it might happen, but your point about the heat, the rule for the shutting off during the winter, I'm wondering, is that something you're looking at again to make it simpler? Is that part of your upcoming rulemaking process or not?
once the rulemaking is open, all ideas will be on the table.
Everything's on the table.
Sure.
So maybe you could
We
use
certainly
it as a possibility to get that one
We certainly
simplified.
will. Yep.
Good idea.
Somebody's working on it, just. Okay,
Grace.
so anyway, any questions? Mr. Porter? Not seeing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
I
it.
think we're getting a united voice here. Got one more witness, which is Ken Nolan from Vermont Public. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ken Nolan, General Manager, Vermont Public Power Supply Authority. Just to set the stage, we're a joint action agency that this body created back in 1979. We work with the municipal utilities who own their own electric departments. So there are 14 towns and villages throughout the state who also run electric departments. They're governed by either elected officials or appointed officials from their community. And most of the people who work at the utility live in that community. So when I comment on the bill here, coming at it with that context in mind, I would agree with, I heard from a couple of people that given a choice, we prefer your version as 204 1.1 as the bill to move forward with, to the extent you need to do anything at all. And we would agree with Lewis. We think that everything is fine the way it is. We don't really think you need to take action. I do want to hit a couple of points. I agree with all the policy comments that were made previously, but I think it might help to put this in more of a practical context. So during the COVID pandemic, we were banned from disconnecting people for a stretch of almost 2 years. What happened there was people just realized you can't come after me to collect money. So they stopped talking to the utilities. And people ended up with 2 years of electric bills in arrearage that then they had to figure out what to do with on the back end. Now, many people were able to get help from various third parties, but there was a large number of people who ended up with a huge debt burden that they then had to struggle with for continuing years. So we actually view the disconnection process as a help, because when you send that notice to customers, that gets their attention to actually come and talk to you about, well, what can we do? What help can I get? Can we do payment plans? Are there things we can do? If we're not able to send that notice, then the customers typically ignore it and that burden grows. On the doctor's note side, I think there is a lack of clarity, and I understand what Mr. Faber said about the PUC has a list. But I think there's a lack of clarity on what level of physician is actually required to sign it. We've got, I'm dealing with a municipality now that has a customer who's had numerous doctor's notes, but they're not written by a physician. They're not written by a physician's assistant. They're written by often an LPN that we're having to agree to accept. And that customer now has a $20,000 bill that the municipality has decided they're never going to collect that money. And they're now talking about how do we write this off? But when they write it off, that means that that cost gets shifted to all the other customers, which I have to point out includes the other low to moderate income customers who don't have a doctor's. Our rates go up for all those people as well. You just create an issue where now those folks have to struggle to pay a bill that someone else couldn't.
Senator Hardy.
Thanks. I just want to push back on that notion a little bit, because it's not like it's an instant thing that somebody doesn't pay their bill and then everybody else has to pay it for them. That you guys have a rate process that you go through with the PUC. And I'm sure that's one of the things that's taken into consideration is other people not paying their bills. But I think it's an oversimplification to say that there's an immediate cost shift or even a short-term cost shift, because the rate setting process is a long process that happens on a generally scheduled basis, so it's not an immediate thing like.
No, it's not immediate.
Okay, well, I just,
That's accurate.
you're all characterizing it as a sort of immediate thing, like in June, somebody doesn't pay their bill, and then in July, everybody else's bills are higher, what it sounds like you're saying. So I just want to push back on that.
No,
There's a process for setting the rates.
That's a fair point. And so the way rate making works is any arrearages we have that would include any write-offs. Those are considered an expense in an upcoming rate case. So we would have to include whatever costs we've not collected from other customers in setting the rates. But the end result, when that rate gets set, is it's going to be slightly higher to compensate for the fact that some people didn't pay their bill.
Right, but it's on a gross basis of all your arrears just over a period of time, not a like immediate thing.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. So I just, as you're considering this physician's no and disconnection, I think you need to keep in mind that impact, not only it can be harmful to the customer who gets the note because they're actually building an arrearage that they're going to have to deal with. And it creates administrative burden and cost shifts over time to other people. I think the municipalities, because they're part of the community, they're as willing, if not more willing, than some of the other utilities to figure out how do we make this work. Can we accept small payments over time? Put people in contact with the local assistance agencies. I mean, all that works in the background. I think the concern we also have on the high heat, similar to what Washington Electric had mentioned, that when you start combining the winter disconnect, which it's not only arcane, but it basically says between November and essentially April, it's almost impossible to disconnect a customer due to cold weather. So most of the utilities don't do disconnects during that period. And then if you've got periods during the summer where you can't disconnect, it's one thing to say, well, when the DPS calls us and we know that it's a hot day and it's occasional 3 or 4 times a year, that's fairly easy to deal with. If you're now putting that into rules that are going to carve out whole sections of the summer, that becomes a little bit more problematic. And then when you layer on top of that the doctor's notes, for some subset of customers, you could be in a situation where there is really no way to disconnect the person, and you're running through this constant conversation. How do you deal with the arrearages and cover them? The last point I wanted to make is that there are a number of municipalities that have in their charters an ability to put a lien on properties for bills that aren't paid, and that's electric, water, wastewater. So this is not like extreme. It doesn't happen very often, but the severe end result is the person who is using these doctor's notes and getting a huge arrearage could actually find their house being liened.
I been involved in one of those where there was water that got shut off, and a furnace that didn't function. And rather than have the person who did have health issues,
Right.
have no heat, no water, the city connected and replaced the furnace, but there was a lien on the house to pay the city back.
Right. So we would much prefer less regulation and more ability to work with our neighbors and customers this out.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I just want to, the doctor's note thing is already in rule. Correct, you already have to accept a doctor's note. So the bill would just say to clarify who can write that doctor's note. And to add physician's assistants so it sounds like an LPN should not be allowed to do it at this point already.
I think the bigger issue, one, clarifying who could sign it. And there's a difference between what is written in the PUC rule and what is when the letter actually shows up and the person complains to the Department of Public Service, for example, copy that you haven't accepted their note, then the rules get expanded a little bit. And we're fine with that. I mean, we'd like to know, understand who's allowed to sign. But if the person gets a doctor's note, we'll work. The bigger issue is moving from the 30-day renewal, that's where the person has to actually demonstrate that there's an issue, to potentially getting a note from an LPN that says, well, you can't disconnect for 5 years. Which the way we read the bill,
That's not what the bill says at all.
But it says they have to consider time if this person has heart failure. And
Well, the due
That's what's not
consideration, I think
clear.
the conversation we had was that in the rulemaking process, consider that. But there's nothing in even an LPN, nothing.
no, he's saying he has gotten one from an LPN.
I know, but that, if the rule right now is that it's an MD letter, is that what the rule says?
We have a list of qualifying folks who can write that physician certificate.
And
So right now, that includes licensed physician assistant and then the nurse practitioner.
a licensed physician assistant, so it already includes those things. So I don't understand why we would need to clarify that. What else does it include?
I don't have the.
You don't
list
have,
on me.
is
Actually,
it possible for you to send us a copy of Rule 3.301G, which apparently is the rule about doctors?
You're right, the list is not in that rule, but I'll send
Oh.
you the guidance document that does include the list.
and I apologize for going off topic here a little bit, but my experience has been that you have the written list, which we try to follow. And it's, as Mr. Hager said, it's guidance. It's not in the rules, guidance as to what you should do.
Mhm.
What often happens is the customer will get a note from a person that they can get the note from, maybe in that physician's office, and they submit it. And the utility says, well, that isn't signed by a person that's on the list, so we're going to reject the note. Their next step is to call CAPI and say that they submitted a note, the utility rejected it, they think they should have the note active.
Mhm.
Almost always, the utility now says, okay,
Okay,
we'll accept that.
wouldn't it be better to have the rule clear about what is can and can't be accepted, and then you can say that that's not a sufficient. We've done a similar. Most recently, I worked on a bill, literally, Senator Beck, you might remember last year, we worked on a bill about fishing licenses.
Yes.
And we had it required a doctor's note, and we got, Judge Harvey came in with very specific language that's very clear about who is allowed to write that doctor's note to get a free fishing license. And it seems like we could do that here so that there's not gray area for you, because I think I hear you, it shouldn't be just anybody who can write that doctor's note. It should be, licensed primary care, yeah. So then I'm just curious is if you have conversation when somebody is requesting has a doctor's note, or even during a time of heat or cold where you're not going to turn their heat off, but under normal other circumstances, you would disconnect them. Do you have conversations with them that at that point saying, do you understand that you're going to have a bill that's, you're accumulating, debt right now. And these are the, things that could happen because you had this debt.
Yeah, as was stated earlier, the utilities have obligations under the rule to have certain conversations and make options available to customers to pay.
Mhm.
I think all of us go above and beyond that to try to make it clear to the customer that this is what's happening. This is where your trajectory is headed. And can we help you get connected with assistance programs,
Mhm.
or can we work out some type of payment program
Mhm.
where this is manageable for you? My point in testimony is that a lot of these things that get put in place with the best of intentions to help the customer
Mhm.
actually give the customer feeling that they don't have to follow through. And it causes them to actually end up in a worse place at the back end because they've accrued all this debt.
Mhm.
And now they have to figure out a way to dig out of it.
Well,
Where
they're not-
we
but
actually-
they're not necessarily in a worse place, because if you turn off their electricity and their heart monitor thing went off or something, they maybe be in a worse place.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody is in medical distress, they're not gonna have their phone. They can have that conversation with the doctor's note is very easy to get at that point and apply.
Yeah.
It's those folks who are, I think Andrea said it, and how they've learned how to game the system over time and read the rules and figure out how do I get through. It's typically what we're seeing is the folks who are really using the system. A fraction of them are actually people who need the assistance. A lot of them are people who just don't want to pay the bill and they can use the system to get away with it. And so we're constantly having to deal with the administrative issue of, okay, the rule says to handle it this way. The same person is coming back time after time after time, and they can easily find a way between the winter disconnects, the doctor's notes, and the high heat period. You can go quite an extended period without actually having to have a conversation with me. I would echo the portion of people who actually get their power disconnected is a few percentage points of those who get the original notice. Because usually by the time you send the notice and you say, tell a person, you've got an issue, we're going to have to disconnect you. You can have that conversation, we can figure out the path forward. To actually get to the point of turning the power off, it's fairly rare in our experience.
Okay. Did you get to finish your testimony?
I'm good. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you. That is the end of my witness list. Committee. Since we're under the gun to start getting bills out of here. I'd hope to have Maria come down and maybe we could start markup, but Maria is not here this afternoon. They're not available. So I thought committee discussion. We could substitute our bill for this one, which basically said you'll do a rules for IE. This one has a few more things in it. Send it to.
I'm looking at S204. To be clear, I don't think they want the entire bill swapped out. We're really just talking about the one section. Like we're not
Draft, they want draft 1.1.
1.1.
Did we hear from the sponsor of the bill or the reporter of the bill?
I was the sponsor of ours. Yes, we had,
Like the way
yes, we had.
No, I mean for the
section 3.
the House bill 753.
I don't know if we were able to get. I did talk with the chair of the committee. They have a bigger committee, and it's more compromising. But
It'd just be nice to know what the genesis of some of those sections are.
yeah,
And I have a list that somebody sent me of potential other witnesses that would.
The reports.
Yeah. Everyone on this site find the drafts.
I know.
Just go to,
It's right on our committee page.
Is it
Yeah.
on there today?
Yeah. Well,
just
go to 204 and then go to Bill's drafts.
yeah.
That's where I'm at.
No, you gotta go to our committee.
Committee activity. And then go to documents. And then go to Senate Committee on Finance. And then go down to there, go to draft. And then go to draft.
Where is she? That was a circuitous break.
Whoa.
That's how you get there.
where's the funny committee?
So I'm gonna send it to you.
Yes.
Send it out.
What's your 19 get?
I am. I'm always looking for this.
I have the same. Okay.
It's a black hole.
It seems to me, are we talking about the bill?
Yes. Let's talk about the bill.
So I just was sent those rules. A physician's certificate is a written statement by a duly licensed physician certifying that a customer or resident within a customer's household would suffer an immediate and serious health hazard due to the disconnection of utility service or by failure to reconnect service to that household.
Okay.
And so it is very clear that it's a licensed physician.
But I think we do need to put in licensed physician assistants and APRN.
Okay, and it says a physician certificate submitted to the commission must be signed by a medical doctor, a physician assistant, or a nurse practitioner.
Okay.
Then this is the guidance.
Yeah.
To be fair, this is not the rule. This is the guidance.
Right, we allow for those three things to qualify under the guidance document.
Right, so an LPN is
rule
not
itself-
on this list.
Right, the rule itself is very clear. It says medical doctor, but
Yeah.
we're allowed. We take a broad interpretation of that, and so we're allowing those three things to qualify.
Yeah, and so seems to me like, I know that we just got pushback from people, but it seems to me like this bill actually might help them because it would be clarifying some things. It would be opening up the rulemaking process to maybe simplify the heat rule in the winter, which we heard is potentially helpful.
That this doesn't say that.
It doesn't say that, but if they have to open it up to do the summer one, maybe they can get them to do this, the same process and be in line. I think fixing the due consideration thing makes sense, and the reporting, they already report that it's just actually the public service commissioners, just the PSD to do it, to tell us what the data is.
All right. So committee, this one is a little more extensive than ours. It would put into removal, which we did ask for, high heat turnoffs. I think we heard that there might be some problem with if you took June through September, that you couldn't turn off in high heat days. It sounds like this is a day by day. There's
We would definitely look at different approaches to doing that.
Yeah. That in all the years that I was on economic development and we did landlord tenant, there are always a few people that know how to game the system that make it miserable. And we found that a lot of people are going to short-term rentals because getting rid of a bad tenant we've made very difficult. And I don't think, there's a balance going on here. We don't want to help people who are gaming the system. At the same time, we do want to make sure that people who are in need are doing it. And we want to make sure we don't hit in any significant way affordability, because that's the bottom line, is affordability. So do we want to think about it? Do you want to change anything?
Can we hear from the reporter of the bill or the page bill? Can we hear from someone on the house side? Or maybe an impacted customer, or I just don't fully understand where this is coming from.
We know there's a national news, and there is
I sent it to you.
You sent it in
I did.
email?
Yeah.
Okay. I will find it. All right, it says they will adopt rules. Regulated by terms and conditions and utility, extent of utility service, or applicants for service, including conditions under which a deposit may be required, the extension, this is all renumbering. And I'm not seeing anything, okay. Shall amend rule 3.3 concerning disconnects of residential gas, electric, and water to include residential customers protected during extreme heat. Wait, this is, oh, this is S204.
Yeah.
That's ours.
Yeah.
That we didn't do. So that's what that's what that one does.
And I just sent the guidelines to everybody that I got from Phil's wiki behind me.
So. Okay, here we got it. So the addition in this is it requires reporting by the Public Service Department of disconnections, right, on January 1st, so we can monitor if there is an upward trend or downward in disconnections. And it asks the real stickler seems to be looking at or considering some tweaking of the 30-day doctor's note. Haven't heard that there's any difficulty in getting those. It sounds like this is putting into statute things that are pretty much happening. I guess the question is, do we want to do that?
Well, is it putting it in statute or contemplating it in rule?
Okay. No, we're contemplating asking rule them to look at the rules, and we're asking that the report be done of disconnect notices. Our next set of witnesses have arrived. I will let me know if you have any changes you'd like to make to this one. We'll get them drafted. And I'll put this on whenever we can fit it in for a possible vote. Okay?
Okay, sounds
All
good.
right. So we are going to go on. I want to get you out of, right now we are scheduled to go to a full 5 o'clock. So, I want to move us out of email and back. Okay, this is H898. This is an act relating to copper-based to fiber-based telecommunications network transition and consumer protection. And this would require, it seems to be there's a lot of concern that us old people will get really befuddled when they get a note that says you're going from copper to coaxial cable. And in case the utilities aren't going to send a notice, this will require that they notice the customers as to what they can expect, which having gone through that, not even realizing. When you pick up your phone, you're not going to see anything. The one difference, and it may or may not be a difference, is that if the power goes out, your phone will go out, and you big concern. It's an inconvenience, but you won't be able to make emergency calls. We've enough working from memory that the bill would require that the providers sell battery packs. I I just said they have to tell people that it is possible to get batteries. I thought, I don't know where the batteries go on my phone. It sounds like from the testimony we got Friday, they're actually located outside where the actual connection is to the house. And we got testimony from Franklin Telephone that they cost about $125 and that they have sold one in the 10 years they have been making the switch over. And people are doing a cost benefit on the $125 worth, whether or not the phone goes out. This, let's see, I'm trying to remember, would require the providers to sell the battery packs. Am I missing anything? Okay, so this is another one. I think the testimony we've heard is we haven't heard about if everyone is selling the battery packs. This happened before there were complaints. It happened, I'm thinking Shrewsbury, but I'm not sure that was the town. It was like a tower went down. They were without phone or cell service or over. When they found out about the battery requirement, they went to the hardware store, and the hardware store didn't sell the batteries. No one could tell them where they got the batteries. So I think there may be some residual from that incident driving this. I'm pretty sure members of the House, at least one or two of them were here when that happened. It was probably 5-6 years ago.
I think the biggest takeaway I got out of this bill was from all the testimony is that we're like 70% into this whole thing. So people, why are we hearing about it? Why isn't it an issue now? In those battery packs, just a little UPS, plug it into the wall, and the box for your phone plugs into that. And so
Well, let's hear from our witnesses. And first we have Sarah Davis. Come on up. Welcome to Senate Finance. We just asked you to introduce yourself for the record and you represent, and then the floor is yours.
Absolutely. So my name is Sarah Davis and I represent Fidium Fiber. And I'm here to testify on behalf of House Bill 898. We are at Fidium Fiber against this bill. We think that it creates a situation where we are just required to do more notice to customers that will not actually achieve a better result. I believe you should have received yesterday from Andrew Brewer, who represents us, the notifications that we do to our customers whenever we are transitioning off a legacy voice copper service onto a fiber service. The fiber service is brand new. It's incredibly reliable. It provides a better customer experience. And so as we string new fiber up all over Vermont, and we've done that to hundreds of thousands of end user customers now have fiber available to them, we make the transition off of the older network and onto the newer network. We are required to notice our customers. We do in all instances do that. Our cadence is a 4-month notification cadence, and the customers are receiving some type of communication every 2 weeks for the entire 4 months. We start off with mailings and then we supplement in between. If they've elected for SMS messaging, we do that. We do emails. We try to meet them in any medium in which our customers interact with us, because customers don't always pick up the mail, customers don't always email. And so we do many. And then before we end the process at the end, we make tons of phone calls to the customer to make sure they understand what's happening and make sure they make the transition at the end. For us, for our service, it does require a tech to come out and change the equipment and change to an optical network.
But outside, right?
Yeah.
In your house.
Yeah. Well, and we offer, we don't have to, but we offer a full professional installation. And the reason that we do that is for all of the reasons that have been cited before. We like to talk to the customer about what devices they may have plugged into their jacks or other things that they have, so that we're providing the service fully and so that all their equipment will work after we've changed it up to fiber optic.
Do you sell the battery packs?
We do not sell battery packs. We are required under FCC rules to make battery packs available and make sure our customers know where they can obtain them, but we are not a reseller of that. So if you go to our website, we give you probably 15 different options of where you can get or order battery packs that
was at my local my local hardware store, or do I have to order them on Amazon, which if the power is out, I can't get it to?
You can get them on both. Some are available at certain local stores, and then there's obviously a bunch of online options.
But there are, this is another long-term thing. I feel might be slightly inconvenient. Yes.
Of course, if you don't have power, you're not going to video on this website.
Yes. And we have to make the change with a full professional install.
No videos.
So when we do that full professional install, that's, when you're signing up for that service and we're coming out, that's when we tell you if you want, if you're worried about the power going out, make sure you get a battery backup.
If I want to stay home or set a time for you to come, is that free install?
Absolutely.
Okay, it's just you can come and hook it up on the outside. Nobody has to be home. But if we want you to come in and check jacks and make sure all the wires line up. I don't know what happens to my TV, but the cable plugs out. If I plug it and unplug it and put it back in, it comes back in. So we figured that out. But you will do that. So this would be then maybe a slightly longer notice than sending now.
No, this bill requires a bunch of additional notifications, and they just add to the work that we have to do. Our notifications have already been approved by the FCC. They're consistent with what they want to state. And so this will just create more notices that we have to send. It'll change the language in which we have to send them. And then it has some reporting requirements after the fact, which are completely irrelevant because, as I told you, we don't sell batteries. So starting to report back on this, we don't have anything to report. It's just creating.
This would require that you do stuff. No. Okay, I thought I remembered that.
Yeah.
Just where you could find.
Yeah.
All right, and you've been doing this for how many years?
We've been doing this about a year and a half. Vermont has been 9 months, and we have transitioned 99% of our customers all over through this process.
Okay, and have you had any problems?
No problems. The only thing I have seen is there was one news story about a woman who didn't realize what she needed to do with her emergency equipment, and we never got a call on that. So
she was your customer.
I don't know that for certain.
Okay.
She was in an area we served. It was likely, but I don't know that for certain.
Just given the location.
Yeah. Yeah, and we are working, one really important thing, we've worked with the department on a memorandum of understanding where we've agreed to do some additional requirements. And that's really important because to arrive at that understanding, we had a long conversation about what is effective for customers and what isn't. And the most effective communication with customers is at the point of sale or when the technician's at the house. People don't read a lot of information and notices that are coming regularly. Yes. And so the benefit of the MOU versus this is that it was really well thought out and with the customer in mind and what would be effective.
Okay. Questions?
So you have to do notification based on the FCC and to get approved. Would this be totally separate? You would also have to do this in addition to what FCC already built you?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
It's the whole set of different requirements.
So that might confuse customers as to why I'm getting,
Multiple.
so, yeah, somebody notices. Okay. Yeah.
And this is another one we were not able to get the House reporter on. We didn't, because it's, maybe we'll ask them to come down, we go through these bills. And see where that goes. Okay, and I've heard that the next witness is not going to testify. So that is it from witnesses for right now. We can have Pat here for our next. Can we have Pat? We want to take like a 10-minute break and we'll see if we can get Pat here at 3